All right. It is 12 o'clock p.m. here on the East Coast, 9 o'clock a.m. on the West Coast of the United States. So it is time to get started. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the official launch of the F-751 Grape Quality Meter. My name is Galen George. I'm the Director of Applied Science at Felix Instruments. Over the past 6 years, I've worked closely with growers, researchers, and quality managers to develop tools that make fruit quality assessment more efficient and accurate. Today, I'm excited to introduce a tool that is going to revolutionize quality testing in the table grape industry, the F-751 Grape Quality Meter. In this webinar, we'll cover the importance of grape quality metrics, how the F-751 uses advanced NIR technology to measure quality non-destructively, a comparison of the traditional testing methods versus the F-751, real-world applications and benefits, and then finally, we'll open up the floor for a live Q&A session. But before we get started, what I'd like to do is do some introductions and light housekeeping. So as I already mentioned, my name's Galen. I've been with Felix Instruments for about 6 years now. My background's in biochemistry and food science. I am an IFT certified food scientist. And previously, most of my work experience has been in the quality and safety assessment of agricultural, food, and cannabis commodities. We have Susie Truitt moderating our webinar today. So Susie will be monitoring the chat for any sort of technical difficulties you may be experiencing. If you can't hear me, see me, or if the webinar drops out, if the presentation disappears, please put those kinds of chats or that kind of information into the chat function. If you do have any questions regarding the content of this webinar about the F-751 Grape Quality Meter specifically, please make sure you put those in the Q&A function because that is what I will use to address the questions at the end of the webinar. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. At Felix Instruments, we understand that quality testing in the grape industry needs to be fast, accurate, and non-destructive. And that's exactly what the F-751 Grape Quality Meter delivers. The F-751 is a handheld, non-destructive device that measures essential grape quality parameters instantly. So it's designed specifically for the vineyard and post-harvest environments, and this meter empowers growers, exporters, quality managers to make data-driven decisions with confidence. But why is grape quality so important? Let's take a closer look at the key metrics that drive industry standards. In the table grape industry, several factors determine whether fruit meets market and export standards. The F-751 is designed to measure the following key parameters. Brix, which is your measure of sugar content, indicates the sweetness and is also used as a ripeness indicator. Typically, a reading of 16 degrees Brix or higher is ideal for ripeness. pH, which affects flavor, color, and microbial stability. This typically ranges from 3.1 to 3.5, depending on your variety. We have titratable acidity, which determines the tartness. This is measured in terms of tartaric acid, which is the dominant organic acid in grapes. This impacts the taste and preservation. And the ideal range usually is somewhere between zero 0.4 to zero 0.8 grams per 100 milliliters. And lastly, we have the sugar to acid ratio, which is a crucial balance metric. It's especially crucial for low Brix varieties. So if you don't meet that 16 degrees Brix or higher, then meeting a 20-to-1 ratio of Brix to titratable acidity is recommended for consumer preference and a high quality product. So traditionally, measuring these metrics requires destructive and time-consuming lab testing. But what if we could achieve the same accuracy without damaging the fruit? Let's explore the technology behind the F-751. The F-751 Grape Quality Meter leverages near-infrared spectroscopy, which is an advanced, non-destructive method that allows users to measure Brix, pH, and titratable acidity in seconds without cutting, squeezing, or juicing the fruit. And here's how it works. So the device will shine near-infrared light into the grape. That light will then interact with the fruit's internal composition, that's both chemical and physical structures. And some of that light is going to be absorbed, some of it is going to be scattered due to those chemicals and physical structures, and some of it is going to be directly reflected And what we capture is that diffuse reflected light, this light that's scattered and then reflected back into the detector. And we analyze specific wavelengths of that light to determine Brick's pH and titratable acidity. The data is that spectral data is processed using an artificial neural network based chemometric model. So what we've done is we've trained this model on thousands of analytical lab tested samples that are from a bunch of different varieties, from multiple growing seasons and growing regions. This ensures a robust model that is capable of uh, basically accounting for the variety that you're going to encounter in the real world, varieties and variables like different growing seasons, where you're measuring in different growing regions, which is accounts for climates and soil types, and that all the kinds of different varieties that are present in the grape industry. So this combination of NIR and AI-driven models ensures precision, reliability, and real-world accuracy. But how does this compare to the traditional quality testing methods? So let's take a moment to compare these. We have a list here of the different types of methods that are typically used to do these analyses. The refractometer, obviously, I think a lot of you are very familiar with this one. The refractometer is a 2 to 3 minute test, including the sample prep required. The cost is fairly low. There is sample damage because you do have to juice the fruit, and you can get these in portable handheld formats. However, the portable handheld formats tend to not be as accurate as the lab grade bench style refractometers. Then for things like titratable acidity, we have to go to a lab, right? We either have to send samples to a lab or we have to bring them into our own in-house laboratory. It can take up to 1 to 2 days to get results back from out-of-house labs. The cost of that testing is fairly high. You need trained employees, or you need to send it out to a contract laboratory and pay them for the testing. All that fruit that is sent is also destroyed in order to get those titratable acidity readings. And obviously, that is not a portable solution that you can instantly get results for in the field. With the F-751 Grape Quality Meter, you can take a single scan and get all three Brix, pH, and titratable acidity readings in about 10 seconds. There is no additional cost beyond the cost of the device. The sample is not damaged, it's a non-destructive method, and it is a completely portable device. So as you can see, the F751 provides instant, accurate results without destroying valuable fruit and waiting days for lab results or incurring high testing costs. But beyond speed and accuracy, what makes the F751 such a powerful tool? So I want to go over some key features and benefits of this meter. The first is the rapid readings, the almost instantaneous readings. You can get those readings in under 10 seconds. This is not only a time savings if you want to measure the exact same amount of samples that you were currently, previously measuring, but it also allows you to then expand your sampling to be more representative of your population. So instead of only taking, let's say, 5 or 6 samples from a block, you might be able to take 100 in the same amount of time and cost that it would for you to take 5 or 6 of those samples with the previous analytical methods. So this allows for more robust data and information for the end user. Another benefit or feature is the fact that we don't destroy the sample. So we can keep your fruit intact while collecting data. Yes, this is a cost savings, obviously. This is good for food waste. We're reducing food waste, but also it allows you to track that same fruit over time, which leads me to the next feature, which is data logging and tracking. You can actually monitor your quality trends over time. So with the same fruit, you can act in your same vineyard, you can actually monitor that fruit's development over time and you can see exactly what you want to harvest. This also applies to the post-harvest industry, right? Data traceability of single, products has been a huge, huge discussion point in the industry. And so being able to actually monitor this same commodity, this exact same bunch of grapes from the pack house all the way to the end user across that entire supply chain and look at how the quality is shifting based on, the transportation time, the storage conditions, all of that, all of those different factors, is a really awesome and amazing, bit of data to be able to have for traceability. We also then have the portability and the user friendliness of it, right? This is a device that is designed for both the field and the pack house, at export, at retail, anywhere along the supply chain. Anyone can use it. That's the great benefit of it, is that you don't need specialized training. You don't need chemists. You don't need anyone familiar with how to run titrations. You don't need any specific training for it necessarily. It's a very user friendly device that is going to give you consistent results regardless of who's using it. You lose that error between users that can arise from doing things like analytical chemistry methods, because one person might be trained to do it a different way than another person. So we eliminate that source of error completely by having everyone use the same instrument. That instrument is always going to give the same readouts. There's not a lot of extra training or anything required for it. And the benefits, right? The F-751 allows users to monitor multiple vineyard blocks. You can identify variation in grape ripeness, and you can improve your packhouse quality control. So all of these features and benefits are going to apply to real world workflows. So let's talk about the pre-harvest workflow first. So the pre-harvest workflow, we're looking at testing multiple vineyard blocks. You can increase your sampling size. You're going to be able to determine the optimal harvest window. So you can actually use a software like our free software, Fruit Maps, that comes with all of our devices. It's a free online web application as an orchard management system. You can use that to actually track your harvest and determine the exact optimal time to harvest within your orchard. You can also use this tool in combination with our fruitmaps.com to ensure uniform quality across grape bunches. So not just across a singular bunch, but you can also look at uniformity across a row, uniformity across an entire block, or across multiple different orchards, to look at how different conditions, different treatments that you're using are affecting your grape quality within those different blocks or those different segmentations. So it's a very powerful pre-harvest tool to ensure a quality product is going to be harvested. Now, in the post-harvest world, right, we can use it as a incoming lot assessment tool, right? So the pack houses can use it to verify bricks and acidity before packaging, right? Before you even hit that packing line, you can make sure that the product coming to you from the orchard, from the vineyard, is actually meeting the standards that you have in order to then package it and sell it either to local markets or to then export. And for those exporters and importers, you can use the device to make sure that anything that is coming to you or anything that's leaving your country is meeting those market standards for the sugar content, for the acidity, for the sugar to acid ratio. So with the S751, growers and quality managers can make informed decisions, reduce waste, and maximize fruit value. So what I want to do now is kind of wrap up with a really quick summary before we move on to our Q&A session. So if you want to learn more, you can actually get a quote from us by clicking the link that Susie is going to post in the chat. This link is going to take you to a landing page. That's what this image is on the screen here. From this landing page, there's a number of things I want to address. So first is you can always schedule a one-on-one product consultation with myself or our application scientist, Kendra, to discuss your specific requirements and use case. You can get a demo of the device. We have devices available to demonstrate for you. We are able to walk you through different applications for the device and how you could integrate it into your specific application. You can also click the link to view our validation reports. Now, there is many different models. As you can tell, there's bricks, pH, and titratable acidity for red grapes, for white grape varieties, for black grape varieties. And we didn't forget about the wine and juice grape communities either. So you can view all those validation reports by clicking that link and looking to see what the actual accuracy of our models are. For yourself, we did an independent validation study for all of our different varieties for all of the different models that we've created. You can also click our link to learn more about Fruit Maps. As I discussed, a very powerful pre-harvest orchard management system tool. It's free to use for the Felix NIRS device users. And we also have a webinar that we've already launched. And when we did our initial Fruit Maps revamp launch back in, I want to say it was sometime earlier last year, around March or April of last year. So if you want to learn more about the platform itself, I highly recommend checking out that webinar. You can also email me directly. You see my email right there on the bottom of the screen. If you have questions, please email me. Additionally, as I mentioned, we didn't forget about our juice grape and our wine grape communities. If you are interested in helping us to collect data to improve our models, and even with table grapes as well, if you have any interest in collecting data to help us continuously improve these models, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. Or if you just have general questions, you can also just email me directly as well. So I just want to say thank you everyone for joining us today. I appreciate your time. We'll move on to the Q&A section right after this, and I will address any of your specific questions that you have for me. So let me go ahead and open that up really quick. And the first question, very good question. You referenced table grape a couple of times. Can this tool be used on wine grapes? John, yes, we do have wine grape applications or models for this device. And so if you're interested in using those, I would recommend that you please reach out to me and we can talk about how you can implement that on your device. So yes, as I mentioned, the wine and juice grape communities have not been left out of this conversation. The next question is, what is accuracy percentage with real analysis by destructive versus the F-751? They have experience with the DA meter, and sometimes the real analysis differ. So yes, that's a great question. As I mentioned, I would highly recommend you download our validation reports, which will show you the exact accuracy for all of our different models. It's going to depend on your grape variety, but in general, we are having error of less than 1 degree Brix for all of our different grapes, and also around zero point 0.1 or less than 0.1 for both titratable acidity and pH. So generally speaking, that's the average error that you will encounter, but it's typically much better than that. That's kind of the worst case scenario error. The next question is, have you tested it on wine grapes? How good would it work in your opinion? Yeah, so we've done a bunch of wine grape data collection. It is an excellent tool for wine grapes. And actually sometimes is a little bit easier to use on wine grapes because of the smaller berry size. So when you have a smaller berry size and a tighter cluster like you usually do with wine grapes, it's actually, you get even more spectral information from the device. So it is a very good tool to use with wine grapes. And like I mentioned earlier, please don't hesitate to send me an email and we can discuss it further. The next question is, thank you for the presentation. Great tool to have. Is it only customized for grapes or it can be used in other fruits? That's a great question. The Grape Quality Meter is just our newest addition to our line of F-751 quality meters. So we actually already have devices for avocado, mango, and kiwi fruit. We also have models and a device that can do things like berries, apples, pears, other commodities. So it can be used in most fruits imaginable. There are a couple of rare exceptions to that rule with fruits that have too thick of a rind or too irregular of a surface. But other than that, this is a pretty limitless tool that can be used to develop calibrations for any fruits that you can think of. The next question. Yeah.
Dan, I apologize. There's a lot of folks putting questions in the webinar chat.
Okay.
If all of those that have put questions in the webinar chat, if you can please put those questions in the QA section. You can find the QA by scrolling across the bottom of your screen. Otherwise, Galen won't see the questions.
Yes, please go ahead and start entering those. I still have a couple questions to answer here before I start to see those new questions roll in. So thank you, Susie, for that. I have a question here that asks, how often does it need to be calibrated? So that's a great question. So there's two different kinds of calibrations, right? There's calibrating in the larger sense of collecting more data to improve the robustness of the model. And that kind of calibration is an ongoing thing that we do in-house. We collect more data, we continuously build up that calibration. Then there's what we call the offset or bias calibration. So the offset calibration is something that we typically recommend you do at the beginning of every season, before you start using the instrument for the duration of the season. And typically, what it involves is performing some scans of the fruit. And then after you've done those scans, you take that same fruit and you analyze it with the refractometer, with a laboratory to get those comparative results, and then allow you to adjust on the device itself the bias and predictions. So sometimes a bias arises. That mostly is eliminated through us integrating the multiple different seasons in the fruit, or sorry, in the model itself. So since we've integrated all those seasons, it shouldn't be a very big issue. There shouldn't be any sort of large bias in predictions, but usually seasonality presents itself as a small bias in those predictions from one year to the next. So we recommend a small calibration process. It only takes approximately 10 samples to do, and we have instructions for how to do that you can download from our website. Once we have our web page live, you'll be able to view on our support page how to actually do that calibration. The next question kind of relates to that. So maintenance and calibration is required with intensive use, when, where, and how. So the really nice thing is that, as I mentioned, performing the offset calibration is really only a once-a-year thing. The maintenance required, there's really not a whole lot, but I know how messy sometimes grapes can get from doing a lot of the lab work and analysis to create these models. So the only thing you'll want to do is you'll want to occasionally clean off the lens of your device. If it gets too sticky and caked on with grape juice, you can do that. We have a cloth, a microfiber cloth that comes with it, or you can just use a kind of gentle cleaning solution and like a Kim wipe or some kind of non-scratching material to wipe off that lens of that device. Other than that, we have a built-in reference shutter that accounts for all your different lighting conditions. So it's not like you're going to have differences when you're using it inside or outside. So there's always a reference measurement being taken with every single measurement, and that there's no other real major components that are going to require any kind of maintenance. It uses rechargeable lithium-ion batteries, so you don't even have to, worry about the internal battery going bad or anything like that. It's a very easy to use and low maintenance instrument. If there is, I guess one thing I will mention, if there is something that needs attention from us, then we do have a warranty that comes standard with the device, a 1-year warranty. Then you'll be able to just send it back to us if there's something that needs repair, if it's a manufacturing defect of some kind. But that's a very rare occasion. The next question is a really good one. I really like this question. How long does the unit last? This is an excellent question because we've had units out in the field now for almost 8 years, and they are still being used to this day. So these units will last you for a lifetime. They are very robust in their, in their shell. It's an aluminum anodized shell. It's going to hold up to all your rigorous field conditions, as well as pack house conditions or anything like that. So as long as you are, not throwing it in a lake every other day, then you're going to be fine. It'll last you for forever. The next question is, can it be used for blueberry? We do actually have a blueberry model. So if you are interested in discussing how you can use the device of blueberry, I would recommend you please send me an email and I can discuss that with you further. The next question is, does it need to be regularly calibrated? I've already kind of addressed this. You don't need regular calibration. It's really just at the beginning of the season thing that you need to do. And then we have another question here about, does it measure other parameters like dry matter? So we didn't include dry matter in this model. When we were building out the model, we were discussing with table grape growers what was most important to them, and dry matter wasn't one of the parameters that came up as being vital. And so for the grapes, we do not measure dry matter. For other commodities where dry matter is a key indicator of maturity or ripeness, then we do measure that for like avocado, kiwi fruit, mango. So for those products, we do measure dry matter, but just not for grape. The next question is there a specific calibration for each grape variety or one for all? So that's a great question. We broke it down into color. So the way that we found the models perform best is if we break it down by color of the grape. So within each of those color specific models or calibrations, you will have all the different varieties that we built into the model for of that color inside of that single model. So it's not variety specific, it's color specific. So it's kind of one more tier up of organization. And where we included all the different black varieties into our black grape model. And then we've included all of our green into our green, and so on and so forth. This is a great question. I already kind of addressed that, but is there any specific requirement on the light condition? Your experience with similar NIR technology based equipment is that the measurement is largely affected by the ambient light environment. That is why we developed this proprietary device that has a internal reference shutter. This internal reference shutter is used at the start of every single measurement that we take. And what it's going to do is it's actually going to baseline every single measurement based on the ambient lighting conditions. And so it zeroes out those ambient lighting conditions. So regardless of if you could take one measurement outside and then the next measurement inside on the same fruit, and it will give you the same result. So there is no, external lighting condition calibration needed or anything like that. The next question is there any chemometric modeling features like with the F-750? So for those of you not familiar, the F-750 is our research grade unit. It's typically used by researchers to create their own calibrations and do their own chemometric modeling. But yes, we do chemometric modeling with the F-751. And so if you're interested in building out more models or adding more data to the model or anything like that is involved with chemometric modeling, please reach out to me. I'm more than happy to discuss that with you to talk about how you can do that with the F-751. The next question is, hi, can you measure the juice if the bunch is not available? Can you give us an indication on cost? So for cost, I would recommend that you click that link for a quote so you can get accurate pricing for your specific region. As far as measuring juice is concerned, please do not measure juice with this. We do not have the ability to measure liquids with this. It is not a liquid spectrometer. So it is meant for solid produce only. Um, uh, as I mentioned, juice will always leach out of the berries in most applications, especially in post-harvest. When you're using this funnel attachment for it in the post-harvest and you're just throwing some berries in, there's always going to be a little bit of juice, but you can easily wipe that up. But if you were to just dump juice into this, it would just spill everywhere. It's not really watertight as far as, dumping a whole bunch of liquid into the top of it. So I would highly recommend against it. It likely could cause damage to the instrument if you were to do that. So please don't measure juice, just the actual grapes themselves. Um, the next question is there a low and high limit on measuring sugar levels in bricks? Yes. So our range of measurement is going to be included in those validation reports. So it's going to depend on the color of the grape. And so for each app that we built based on the color, there's going to be a slightly different range of bricks. Generally speaking, though, it's we included the widest possible range. We included data from super early season with really low brick scrapes all the way to really, really high brick scrapes. So we have covered that entire range that you will likely encounter when you are doing those measurements. But I would highly recommend you download those validation reports so that you can see for yourself exactly the range for your specific grapes that you would be measuring. The next question is, can one measure the water content of any plant material? This is a great question. With this technology, absolutely, you can measure water content of pretty much most plant materials. However, is it applicable to this instrument? Likely not. So if you are interested in learning more about measuring water content in plant materials, please send me an email. I can direct you towards some other products that we have that would be more geared towards that specific application. The next question is, what kind of reference values did we use to calibrate the device? So to create the actual humanometric models, I told you we did analytical lab testing in order to obtain the reference value for each of the samples that we measured with the spectrometer. So what we used is a benchtop refractometer with a high degree of precision and automatic temperature compensation to ensure the highest degree of accuracy with our analytical bricks measurements. And then for pH and titratable acidity, we actually used an auto titrator that was set up to measure titratable acidity in terms of tartaric acid. So those are the two sources of reference data that we were using in the laboratory. And the next question actually is a very excellent question. Is can this device measure grapes in different development stages? Yes, that is exactly the pre-harvest application that I was talking about earlier. Is that this device can be used from super early season to track the development of your fruit all the way until harvest or even post-harvest. So you can use it and the grapes when they're in different stages of development and help yourself to gain data to monitor the development of those different grapes that you have. So excellent question. Thank you. It looks like there's no more open questions unless there's a bunch more left in the chat. But if oh, we have one more. Or here we go, a couple more. So how does the geo logging work? Can you go into more detail? Yeah. So this is every measurement you take is GPS tagged. So every measurement with the device will have GPS coordinates associated with it. And so when you upload your data to Fruit Maps, it will know where that measurement was taken. And so that's how you can track within your specific orchard or vineyard exactly where your fruit that you measured is what was taken and develop, and you can actually monitor those same areas over time and look at the development of your fruit. The next one is the color of the berries evolves over time. For this reason, should a special program be made so that it can measure the same fruit over time? So within these apps, with the berries that change color slightly over time, we are the apps are created for the final berry color, but they incorporate data from when those berries are in the earlier stages of development before their color shift. So it is going to be for when you're using this device, if you want to use it on berries that are going to be that are black grapes or that are green grapes when they are harvested, then that's the app that you will want to use on the device. Um, and the next question is how close can the data points be? So they can be as close as you want them to be. So the GPS, as far as GPS accuracy is concerned, I believe we are probably around like 1 meter or so accuracy. I think at most. So but you can still take multiple data points from the same area within a 1 meter radius, and you'll still be able to plot all those points on the fruit maps and see and track those individual data points. And we have multiple different views. I mean, you can zoom in really close, but also you can view your data in graphical format or list format on the website itself. So you should be able to take as many data points as you want. Um, the next question is, it would be best if you could just put a bunch of grapes and do the measurement before the camera and use the Atago refractometer to prove the reading. I think that would be the most convincing way to show the accuracy of the device. I appreciate the feedback. Unfortunately, I don't have a refractometer right here with me that I can do that with. But as I said, the validation report is an independent validation. And that report will show you the accuracy of the device. And we don't do any sort of data manipulation to cater to make sure that the device looks good. It's all completely independent data, and we show the outliers and everything. So if you want to see a true, transparent accuracy statement, then that is going to be in those validation reports. Are there any factors that need to be controlled that can potentially influence accuracy with regard to readings? No. So we've actually, tried to build in as many of those factors as possible. The only really major factor that typically influences spectra, besides things like regionality and seasonality, are going to be things like temperature, the temperature of the actual sample. So measuring, cold store fruit versus in field on a hot day fruit. If you didn't build that temperature compensation into the model, then you would have pretty differing results between the cold fruit and the hot fruit. Luckily, that's something we've already encountered many times with our previous work with other commodities. And so we've actually built that temperature compensation into the model as well. So there aren't really any factors that you need to control when you're using the device. We've really built in all those different variables into that model. All right. And it looks like there are no more open questions. So we'll wrap it up here. Like I said, please don't hesitate to send me an email if you have further questions. Also, please don't hesitate to reach out. Look if you are looking for different applications or you have a specific situation that you have, or if you're interested in collaborating with us and helping us collect data. More than happy to discuss any of those situations with you, either via email or over a Zoom call. So, there's one more
One more
question.
question. Yeah.
Okay. There is a significant variation during ripening time among berries. Do you have experience determining how many individual berries should be measured to obtain a reliable mean value representing the entire grape? So, this device, if you're only measuring a single grape, is going to capture the entire chemical and physical information of that entire grape. This light will penetrate through that entire grape. So you don't need to take multiple scans of a single grape. What we do recommend is if you want to do single grape analysis, you can do that. If you want to do multiple grape analysis and get an average of multiple berries, you can use this funnel attachment and put multiple berries in here. Or in the field, if you want to use it in a field application, you can use it similar to, let me find the image here, like this image on the left where you are, and this is how it was used when we were collecting data from the field. You're just holding this up to a cluster of berries. As far as getting representation on a cluster of berries, you would want to do probably multiple scans of that cluster. We were doing 3 scans per cluster. But if you're only interested in getting rapid data for multiple clusters throughout your entire orchard, you can just do a single scan and move on. But it depends on, I guess, what's most important to you as far as the data is concerned. But for a cluster, yeah, probably 3 scans to get representation. For a single berry, you just need the 1 scan. And then for an orchard or for a whole vineyard, you're going to need to determine your sample plan based on the size and the number of varieties and rows and all that stuff. But that's the best way to ensure representation, I would say. The next question is, there's one more question, last question. Is the calibration done only for bricks or also for the pH? Yeah, so the calibration, you would want to do it for all 3, actually, bricks, pH, and titratable acidity, if possible. If not possible, then, doing it for the parameters that you can do analytical tests for is at least better than nothing. So I would recommend that at a minimum, you're going to want to do it for the bricks. And if you can, please also make sure that seasonal calibration is done also for the pH and the titratable acidity. All right. And with that, I think we are going to go ahead and wrap up. So please, as I mentioned, you feel free to click the link that Susie's posted in the chat. Access all those different resources that we pointed out to you. And feel free to reach out directly if you need any other information from me.